ठीक है, रिकॉर्डिंग स्टार्ट।
ठीक है। फाइनल ईयर So, good morning, everyone. So, this is a new episode of our series, Common Sense or Overthinking. So, we took the topic decolonization today because we were looking for the challenges the world is facing to understand what are the main of the challenges. So, we googled, and on the UN website there was many challenges, and one of them was decolonization. So let's start with it. So before the introduction, the one of the main question arises is what is decolonization and why is it relevant in today's concept? Isn't it already been solved and most of the countries are out of it? And why? How is it relevant in today's, or is it totally political? So let's explore and let's start. So decolonization. The decolonization, which is the process of freeing the colonies from the colonial powers, and it has various aspects. So let's start exploring one by one. So first of one is the political independence. Political independence as the colonies which are under the influence of colonies do not have their political freedom. Their elections are controlled. They do not have defense and other perspective. So uh, so what other so Parag and Rohit. So what do you think are the other dimensions related to decolonization which are relevant in modern concept?
As you stated very starting, and
Mhm.
start the conversation that what is decolonization.
Yes.
So we can start discussing with this point and how it is relevant today. So these two questions answer the topic itself. Uh, so decolonization, I'll go back to history and I'll start with what was decolonization, how it is started, and what led to decolonization. So colonization, how it is started? Simple. I I give two most reason for it. One was religion, and one was economy. So in terms of religion, from 8th century onward in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
there was like Europe is also like India and Asia. It's they don't have very great economy like or at
Yeah,
global
it
level
was
economy.
agrarian mostly.
It was mostly agrarian.
Yes.
Over the time, the trade was between Asian nation and mostly
Mm-hmm.
Western and South Asian nation to the
Yeah.
European and via the this Mediterranean Sea, Red Sea, Persian Sea route, which is in history called Silk Route. We are
Mm-hmm.
very well known by this term Silk
Yes.
Route. But what happened after 8th century, 9th century onward,
Mm-hmm.
the tribes from Central Asia started to started to capture, started to colonize the this Mediterranean Sea region, the Greece region, Egypt region, Iran region. So
Mm-hmm.
over the time, what happened? The two two impact, two repercussions of this was first the original tribe of Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, this region, the original tribe of this region
Mm-hmm.
start pushing itself to Western Asia, like India, China, this region.
Yeah.
And over the time, it also impacted the transfer of goods via the Silk Route also. So what happened? The simple flowing trade from Western
Mm-hmm.
Asia to Europe, which was cotton, which was food grain, uh,
Mm.
which was pulses, I can say, and
Mm.
which was spices. So this hampered the
Okay.
Ottoman Empire. I think the most influential was Ottoman Empire. So Ottoman
Okay.
Empire started to
Mm-hmm.
import a tax on this route.
Mm.
This this led to European find a new way to enter to Asia for their free trade. And
Okay.
over the
Mm-hmm.
time, this led to colonization.
Mm.
Like
So,
when they reach Western Asia, when they reach Java, Sumatra, Indonesia, all this region, they simply wanted to expand their economy. They simply wanted to get the spices, get the cotton at a very cheap rate. But over the time, they realized that there are so many competition in this market, there are so many contender in this field. So if we want so and so commodity at so and so fixed price, so
mm.
what we need to we need to eradicate our competition. And one
Okay.
way was simply to enter the political structure. This led to
Okay.
colonization.
Okay, that was a great perspective from the history. So let's explore it. It seems very interesting. Ki what might have been the psychology behind colonization? Why did they feel burdened that they need to colonize and utilize their resources? Because initially they were motivated mostly because of the Renaissance that created a psychology that the humans are better, or you what you call, you are not everything is created by God. They convert they explored arts, and they explored that led to industrial revolution in Europe, which led to them exploring. But what changed in their mind? They got into what you call politics, and they control slave trades. They practice such unhuman practices, and they look down on other people. Let's explore these dimensions. So, the desire and economic gain. First of all, what Rohit mentioned, that it was mostly for economic gain, because of their greed and mercantilism. Then there was cultural superiority, uh, because they were gaining economic more and more economy. They felt what you call, there is a term, white man burden. They feel like the white men consider themselves they are responsible for the rising up the standards of other people. So uh, so there was other practices, like there was Christian missionaries activities, that they wanted the peoples of India to understand the concept of Christianity. And they so and there was national competition. There came the concept of pride and rivalry between those. So, do you think all these practices and psychology behind colonialism was right? And uh, how do you? Where do you think the thing went wrong? If you are to critically analyze the situation, कहाँ से वो ट्रेडर्स से स्विच हो गए कि उनको रूलर्स बनना था?
आप दोनों के पॉइंट्स काफी मतलब स्टार्टिंग के लिए बेटर थे, एंड आई जस्ट वांट टू ऐड ऑन ओवर दैट कि
यस।
अगर हम देखते हैं तो मेनली कुछ चीजें थी, जैसे कि सबसे पहले कि उनको अपना रिलीजन स्प्रेड करना था। वेयर एवर दे गो, दे नेवर लेफ्ट देयर रिलीजन बिफोर देम। वो साथ लेके गए उस चीज को, और चाहे कोई भी हो, चाहे ब्रिटिशर्स हो, पोर्चुगीज हो, डच हो, आज भी इंडिया में अगर जितने रिलीजन्स हैं जो कि नॉन इंडियन एग्जिस्टेंस के हैं, अदर देन मुगल, दे ऑल आर द गिफ्ट ऑफ कॉलोनियलिज्म। अगर हम देखते हैं, अगर जैसे आप गोवा देखो, या जो भी हमारे पोर्ट्स थे, विशाखापट्टनम था, गोवा था, पौंडीचेरी, तो हर जगह दीज वर द सेंटर्स फ्रॉम वेयर other English regions started to spread in India. Why? The one main reason is कि अगर आप इंडिया का स्ट्रक्चर भी देखो अभी का, if we are talking about the current relevance, तो इंडिया में काम कैसे होता है? मतलब अगर पॉलिटिक्स है, their main way to move people is religion. कि वो पहले कास्ट बेसिस पे डिवाइड करते हैं, मतलब ये थोड़ी सी वैसी बात है बट है, पहले वो कास्ट बेसिस पे डिवाइड करते हैं, देन दे टारगेट रिलीजन, ये हिंदू है, मुस्लिम है, जैन है, बुद्ध है, सिख है. So the same strategy was adopted by the colonizers, whoever. The next thing was exploitation of the natural resources. Slavery is also, in one sense, they were using them as laborers. They were using them as their workers. So they were also like exploiting other human beings. They were saying that they are downgrades. अगर वो एक ब्लैक है तो देवर सेइंग कि उसमें माइंड नहीं है फॉर अ वेरी लॉन्ग टाइम. देवर यूजिंग दिस लाइक थिंकिंग, देवर दिस टर्मिनोलॉजी देवर यूजिंग. So the second thing was exploitation of natural resources. The third thing was कि using the resources and increasing or can say expanding their own economy. कि हमारे यहाँ से कॉटन लेके गए तो उन्होंने यहाँ से टैक्सेस हटा दिए, बट अगर कोई इंटरनली इंडिया में जो ट्रेडर्स ट्रेड कर रहे हैं उसके ऊपर टैक्सेस बढ़ा दिए, और वहां से जो लेके गए इंडिया से बाहर उसे प्रोसेस करके फिर लेके आए तो उन्होंने उसके ऊपर से टैक्सेस नहीं रखे, बट अगर इंडिया कोई खरीदता है तो ही विल बी पेइंग टैक्सेस अगेन. सो इन दैट वे दे वर लूटिंग ऑल्सो, मतलब लेके भी जा रहे हो और सेल पे भी आप मतलब एक डबल ट्रिपल अमाउंट कैप्चर कर रहे हो. तो दीज आर द टू थ्री थिंग्स टू समराइज.
Okay. So decolonization. So were there any advantages of decolonization according to you? Did it affected us positively
Definitely.
instead of their intention of getting? Initially they were just traders, then they changed into they wanted to gain economy, and they wanted to gain many of the resources as you both mentioned. So were there any advantages for us, and were these advantages so big that they can be omitted compared to others?
So you are asking about decolonization particularly, advantages of decolonization.
No, no, I am asking about were there any advantages ki colonization, they made colonies and they use their resources for themselves, but they developed some infrastructure and others things. So, like they introduced medical, we were practicing earlier practices that were not been developed for a long time. They introduced us to latest surgeries and medical practices. They introduced us to various healthcare and education. So do you think those advantages outweighed what they did, what atrocities at this time? I think we can say atrocities. What atrocities they put the colonies through?
Okay, I will try to take this. So first of all, like we already see there are so many things, particularly in education, particularly in like the philosophy, the literature, that
Hmm.
the colonizers came and they took many things from India and then they transcribed it into their language and uh, proposed it as their own. Like
Yes.
initially, they like I am not 100% sure, but there are so many evidences of such things happened. Many incidents of such things are there.
Yes, we
So
have
the next,
excellent philosophers like Bhagavad Gita and other they lost philosophy.
so many things, like in every field, whether it is economics, we have Chanakya for politics, we have Charak for Ayurveda, for surgery as well. Like
Law.
there are so many historical proofs that we have excellent surgical methods available in
Hmm.
very past, like long past. So I don't think it was very much needed at that time, since the population size was not this the current, not like the current one.
Hmm.
At that time, population was, I think, 1 million or so
Hmm.
in the whole country, as a country, if we see. So at that time, I would say there was no such impact. But in the span of 200 years, if we see, there is impact. Like
Hmm.
the Silk routes, the globalization that happened. So if Britishers or whoever, like any colonizer, wouldn't have come, so I think that might be a slow process, because so many countries that were not colonized, they are still like in the process of looking towards the other country, and they are still backward. So that is one positive impact, but the negative impacts are quite so many, because see, the main motive of colonizers was never to develop the culture of the country they are colonizing. It was never their main goal. We have already discussed, as Vibha has already shared, the main goals or the things that they have done, कि आओ, लूटो, लेके जाओ, अपने को स्ट्रॉन्ग करो, और दूसरे कंट्रीज को एक्सप्लॉइट करो, और इस चीज को आगे बढ़ाते जाओ. सो इसमें कंट्री का कल्चर, कंट्री के ट्रेडिशंस, दे वर नेवर इन देयर मैनिफेस्टो.
Okay. So, but don't you think when they first captured, it must have came to their mind कि when they started colonizing, कि let's consider it as the territory of Britain and move our people there and let's develop it so that we can create a better, bigger empire of Britain. So, don't you think that must have came to their mind earlier? You are saying they were never intended to develop.
But where is the country in benefit? As you have mentioned, they were trying to expand the British Empire, not the Indian Empire. They made their army who was serving the Queen, not India. They were killing their own people. Why? Because they are not following the order of the Queen, not the Indian traditional king's orders. How they did it? By the same thing. They gave Christianity in terms of either money or any kind of greed, whatever the people was fulfilling, whatever the king was trying to have. If king says, I want something and I will let people follow Christianity, or I will let people follow your orders in whatever sense. So in one sense, we started to adopt to their route, to their like thinking. We adopted to English and reduced our Indian learnings in one way. They never promoted Hindi. They just used it as a medium of exchange.
I would like to add on this point. Based on the history of America, it was also a colony, and initially their intentions were to what you call colonize it. But after the atrocities they created, there was a genocide that is not being discussed much in the history of Native American people. Then because of that genocide, the, they decided by themselves, the people who were living in the colonies, who were white people from Europe, they decided that they should just develop it with their own, and that led to America. So I think it was based on their convenience where they wanted to develop or where they did not want it to develop. So in India, there was some resistance to for such things. So they did not develop in India, and where there was less resistance or they were able to, so they did not. I think they took a lot bigger responsibility than they could handle, because of which that led to many atrocities in the society. What do you both think about my opinion on that?
First, I would like to add two, 3 points. As Parag said, like when the European came to India, they colonized us. Uh, we have a already established uh, culture. Like we have Charak for medical purposes. We have Gita for philosophy, and so and so. I'd like to add something in that. A little bit of correction. Uh, in the medieval time itself, I am talking about after 12th century, in between 12th to 15th century. What
Yes.
happens is India was a leader in science. India was a leader in philosophy.
Yes.
Like in medical science, Charak also written a book. Aryabhatta
Yeah.
written a book. So and
वो
so on
12
political
रत्न
level.
के
Yes, on political level, on administration level. But over the time, when when Turkish started to invade in India
yes.
from I'll say from 13th century onward, like Mahmud Ghaznavi, Muhammad Ghori, when they started and capture Delhi Sultanate. So during that time also, the development of Indian philosophy, the development of Indian science is halted. So before coming of European in India, before already, I think it was about 250 years or 300 years when we were out of the picture, we were out of the global picture in terms of science and in terms of development. But we were leading in terms of culture, we were leading in terms of writing, in terms of painting, we were leading in terms of trade also, we were leading. So I just want to clarify that before European came to India, our you know our science per se was very much behind compared to the global level. Like in
Yes.
14th 15th century there was industrialization in Europe, and we were uh, not even close to them. First thing. Second one is, uh, the question came, he simply European wanted to come here, grow and gain, and they wanted to grow their own economy. They don't wanted to stay here like the Mughals. And as Naveen said, in case of America, they go to America and they developed them there. So it was on their convenience. I would like to
Yes.
clarify that also. In case of India, when they come here, so first my point was they came only for, in at first instance, they came only for economic perspective. They were not at all interested that we are here to stay, that we are here to expand ourselves. They were simple, they were clarified in their minds that we are here for their spices, for their economy. In case of America, Britain, let's understand 1 2 minutes about Britain. Britain Britain had seen industrialization much before the Europe itself. Like Britain was the first to see the industrialization, so he was stable in that sense. Britain also was politically stable because uh, it make the ties with I think that was Wales and I think Scotland. So
Yes.
Wales and Scotland, they made a you know, uh, political group, and they were more politically stable compared to rest of the Europe. The only problem in the Britain was that of agriculture, that they were not able to produce that much of grain.
Yes, it's a temperate zone there.
Yes,
Many of the crops cannot be grown there because
yes.
of the
So
lack of
that
sunlight.
was a simple problem. So I think my philosophy is that in when you see the America, it is much close to Britain as you
Yes.
compare Britain with India. So
Yes,
it is
you have to
very
only
convenient.
cross Atlantic Ocean and
Yes.
then you are
So
there.
it is very logical for them. The white from the eastern Britain, Eastern Europe, they go to the America and they found a vast land which can be converted into agricultural land. So, though which was the original tribe of America, they also called them Indians, which we know as West Indies today. So they removed that Indian from their land and converted the wild area, the forest area, into agriculture, and that led to Britain. You know, uh, Britain food requirement. So they don't have any compulsion. They don't need India to be, a permanently developed state. For them, we were from 16th century onward, we were their economic purse. We were their like money pocket only. Simple.
Yes.
So that's
So it,
their
so it was their excellent public administration and their policies and their excellent governance that led them to colonize so many colonies. Initially, they
it was
intended to. Yes, yes.
over the
Uh,
time it became the first was the requirement, like
mm,
they wanted to come India over the spices. Over the time when they started that, we wanted, if we want a monopoly in trade, we want to establish ourselves politically. This hunger this hunger started to colonization over other colonies. Like, for example,
yes.
if they if they uh, if they want minerals and resources, it is very much reasonable for them to go to Africa and make them colonize. If they wanted, I would say rice, if they want rice in a greater quantity, it is very reasonable for them to colonize Java, Sumatra, Indonesia. They are the rice bowl at that time.
Mm,
So the hunger lead to expansion of colonization. Start was a as a economic hunger, and the political hunger converted this expansion of colonization.
right. If I am to critically analyze the whole psychology that might have developed for them to spread over the globe, so for earlier they understood they developed a very excellent management systems under which they were able to develop their own countries and they were able to master their trade. So they had few of the from the neighboring countries, neighboring places. They were able to accumulate few resources and they were experimenting with sciences and new technologies and they found out that there are many places apart from these countries where there are resources that they can use. Initially their intention might have been to just scientific exploration of human mind, and when they went there they just implemented their ideas, and when the things get out of their hand because of the political pressure they might have felt from the crown or the colonial powers where they were instructed to do so, they justified their actions, and which might have led to such concepts of psychology which led them to create such atrocities all over the world. So I think that was the progress that they conquered more than they can handle.
Hmm.
So let's come back to the decolonization.
Uh,
So
I would
okay,
I
yes,
would jump start from colonization to decolonization. What led to decolonization?
okay.
Let's jump to that. What were the situation which led to decolonization? So, in my opinion, there are two, three factor. The first one was World War.
Mhm.
The second was, uh, revolutions.
Mhm.
I'll discuss what mean by revolution. The third was, you know, globalization,
Okay.
and fourth was, in my opinion, the rise of new powers. All these
Mhm.
points are interrelated. Like, I'll start with revolution. So in end of the 18th century, around 1780s or 1790s, Europe see the French Revolution.
Mhm.
So French Revolution gave the concept of liberty to Europe. That means equality for all individual. That it was not the first instance, but it was the instance which gave the complete Europe a idea of liberty. that there cannot be a single power which can lead this much group of people, and every person in the country
mm,
has their own rights. So the concept
mm,
of liberty emerged.
mm,
After that, around first quarter of 19th century, around 1820s, 1830s, we
mm,
see the Russian Revolution. And the Russian Revolution gave the concept of socialism,
mm,
that that there cannot be a single piece of land attached to a single person. If you want growth, there the state should capture the land first, and it should distribute the resources, the gains of the land among the people. Only this can lead to the growth. So my point is, there were through that revolution, there are some concepts that people started to get aware in Europe, first in Europe. So these were like liberty, these concept wise socialism, equality, justice. So these were the concept which Europeans see first time. And because there was already a revolution of printing press, these idea in very less time reached to India. So the social reformer of India, earlier social
yes,
reformer of India, like Raja Ram Mohan Rai and so, they were aware
and
of all these things, all these new ideas which were emerging in Europe. Obviously, they
geopolitics.
obviously they wanted to
Mm,
implement them in India also. So that was the first reason.
mm,
Second reason was globalization. What globalization? As we have already mentioned, like first, the economic monopoly lead the European to come to West Asia or like South Asia to go to these nations and convert them into colonies. After realizing that we cannot make our monopoly in trade without
mm,
making them without making their political importance. So this led to the growth of colonialism. Now understand, the growth of the colonialism lead to a globalized market. Like raw material in terms of cotton is coming from India, is coming from China. It is going to Europe to, to convert it into a final good. Then that final good is again uh, distributed among the colonies. Africa, Java, India, China. In case of opium also, European make India as a hub of opium manufacturing, not opium consumption. So opium was grown in India, and there is a trade started from India to China of opium, and that the money European get from this, they use that money to make the trade of balance between between Britain and China. So you can see there is a global market now. There is a not there is the it is not like there is a market of India itself. There is a market of a state like Uttar Pradesh itself. Now the market is at global level. So there is a scenario of globalization which occurred due to this concept of colonization. So we clarified 2 points, that there was a revolution and there was globalization. Then in uh, in 20th century, first quarter of 20th century, the world sees two world war. First World War 19, I think 1914 to 1919, and second one was 39 to 45. During these two world war, the situation completely changed. How? The first one was the ideas which emerged during the revolution, France Revolution, Russian Revolution, and so. This idea ultimately get consumed into nationalism. So in Europe itself, there was a feeling among people of nationalism, that we are Italian speaking people. So there should be a nation, Italy itself. There should be a nation of a German speaking people, Germany itself. So the nationalism, the feeling of nationalism people grow. After World War, what happened? Already there was this feeling among peoples. After World War, Britain, France, and these big colonies was in huge debt. They were in huge debt by America. America gave huge debt in during World War to them. So after World War, there is a economical burden on the state which rise the colonies. So they were in burden itself. Like USA gave some, I don't remember correctly, but it's something like 30 million or something. The debt on France, the debt on Britain. So this led to a rise of new power, and that new power was USA and USSR. See, so these are some factor in my opinion which led to decolonization. So after all this, first there was a feeling of nationalism in Britain itself. So people started to think that yeah, we are a nation and we don't want other nation to get exploited. So in the citizen of Britain itself, the mindset started that it is not our burden to liberalize other nation. Let them free, let them run on their own. We should focus on our economy, we should focus on our market. And at the time their market was good enough. They have become a world leader in manufacturing. The second point, economy, as I said, so USA has huge debt on France, on Britain. So in that scenario, it was not very reasonable for these colony maker to to continue the colonies. It was not very economically viable. And the third was rise of new power. So the USA and USSR, they pushed these nations to decolonize.
to gain their political advantage.
Yes, to gain their political advantage. So, in my sense, these were some of the factors which lead to decolonization. I would like you to give your ideas or give your thoughts on it.
So my idea about colonization, I think it is quite intelligent as what you are saying, and it is also relevant to some point. As earlier around 17 people used to colonize, and 1945 when the US was born. But now there are only 17 such territories there, which are also occupied by either the neighboring country or they are occupied by the other colonies there. So I think at the moment it is that the concept, instead of the concept that is we focus on, we should focus on these that with all these action, we have responsible and to what extent should we have responsible. Because at the humanitarian level, we are going to make them responsible for everything, then it will be humanitarian for the people living there. Because all of the resources have been just destroyed away. So to what level they are responsible for the what you might hold as recent. In the for the Afghanistan areas, there are also significant drugs and manufacturing of drugs. That is the result of what you as the peaceful colonies. Because they are led to building of such infrastructures. And then there is the conditions of living these treaties. That is so what the new concept of neo-imperialism. That is the new way of colonialism. Same, it is same as colonialism, and they just specialize them because of the trade. We do not trade with you, we do not like that too. So, can you tell me how can we, how if you are an administrator or a democrat who is designing rules or setting rules, how can you create such rules to make them accountable for this responsibilities, and how can you avoid such practices that are being done even today? so-called funny concept.
Hmm.
Yeah, let me break it down because I have
You
tendency to
get
do
them
so.
one by one because
I think multiple
अरे every topic है every
we
topic has
were
a
we
separate
were
theory.
we were on the what was the reason of decolonization, and you jump to impact and how we can erase the impact of the bad impact of decolonization. This is your question.
I would let's start from simple question.
Hmm.
Should the colonial powers that did such a harm to all the countries be
Hmm.
held responsible, and to what extent, so that it is humanitarian and not harmful to those powers also.
What do you mean by humanitarian in the context of
Humanitarian, I mean to say कि if we are going to if we directly read the book like there are many literatures that have been written after colonies went out, like Nairobi wrote trade as well.
Hmm.
We are going to hold them responsible for all the millions of dollars, trillions of dollars. Then they will be broke, and the people there are going to suffer. And the new generation that is not at all involved in the politics of the administration will have to suffer. And the people, or if you look at the children, the little children, they will have to suffer. So I am saying they should be held responsible, but to a humanitarian level. So what do you think about that, or anything would you like to add to it? To what level they should be held responsible, or should they be held responsible in modern context?
So I'll compress your question in simple line, that what was the uh, simply how it is relevant today. How is decolonization
Yes, yes.
relevant today? Simple. And how is decolonization relevant today? Okay.
Yes, yes.
So outcome of decolonization, we can say there was positive outcome and there were negative outcome. I'll discuss first positive negative outcome, then I'll go to your answer that how these even relevant today. They are relevant in the sense, in one line, if I'll say, they are relevant in a sense that if colonization didn't happen, decolonization didn't happen. If decolonization didn't happen, we we would have not discussed the positive and negative impact, and these positive and negative impact lead to all the today's scenario, like 1991 liberalization reforms, है ना? And this concept of dividing the states on the basis of easiness of administration. All these come from this colonization only, if we go deep. So I'll start with the outcome of decolonization, positive and negative. So start with positive sense, and I'll start with society. In terms of society, what was the positive impact, and in terms of society, what was the negative impact? Before Britishers came to India, India was much before, much before the Mughals come, much before Turkish come, and so and so. India was divided on the basis of caste. Like you belong to this particular section of community or based on your birth, and you will have to do this work based of your birth only. You cannot switch to this community to this community. This was already there in India. Simple. When when Turks came, when Tughlaq came, when Tamur attack, after that European came, all this
Yes.
big picture, what they have done is they have diluted they have diluted the so-called rigid distinction between these varna, between these four varnas. Now it was very, very, it was very, very difficult to find where this person is from, which hierarchical level, which it is, because I'll give you an example simply. Like if there is person, this is Brahman, for example. Now Mughals came in Rajput also. Here is here is Rajasthan, Rajput state. Here is Mughals at Delhi, and they marries their daughter to them. And after after 100, 200, 400 years, it is very complex to to distinct people in terms of varnas only. So my point is the negative impact of all
Yes.
these is the complexity of caste system grow. It was the negative concept, negative impact. Over the time, the complexity of caste in the society grew. Whether Mughals came and all this before that. When due to this complexity, when British colonizers,
Yes.
they broke down at some extent this complexity. They were able to break down this complexity at some point. Like they were untouchables. They were above, little above them, which was called Sudra. They were to be the, slaves. Yeah, they were to be the, involved in only this particular work per se. What Britishers did, they they hired those people in their army, in police, in teaching, in
Yes.
administration, and so on and so. So I'll say in terms of society or in terms of culture, the negative and positive impact I'll break down is the negative impact, the complexity of the caste system grow, and the positive was the decolonization, yeah, colonization was able to some extent reduce that complexity of the caste. It is my first point. In terms of political system, what was the positive and negative impact? I'll I'll relate it again to the Mughal time, then come to colonize, that come to decolonization. During Mughal times, before the before the establishment of Mughal Empire, there was one person which was, I think, Alauddin Khilji. So Alauddin Khilji was the first person which was able to expand the Mughal Sultanate, which we later see. So he was the first who was able to, I think, Delhi, Agra, and so on, and he was penetrated up till the Bihar, Bengal region, and in the south, completely Rajputana state, Ranthambore, Chittorgarh, and in the south, up to, I think, Madurai. So he was first which created the vast empire. And if a person has created a vast empire, he has to make some administrative, rules and regulation to run such a vast empire. After that, a great leader in terms of administration was uh, 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 I think Muhammad bin Tughlaq. And after
Yes.
that, in terms of consolidation, there was Akbar. In during the time of Akbar, Jahangir, European, Portuguese, all these they started to introduce in India. So they have seen already Europeans when they come to India, they have seen that there is a big political structure, administrative structure in this country, which is that at local level, at on ground level, there are peasant worker who are working in agriculture field or so and so. Above them, there is a noble. Noble is a broader term which you can relate with anyone. In South, they are called, Periyars, or in North India, they are called Jamidar, Jagidar. Ultimately, they were all nobles. Like these people, they are, they are, they are,
They have people
administered.
working for them.
Yes, they were administered by these nobles only. And above these noble, there was a Raja. And this Raja, they were to be accepted the Mughal Empire. That yes, we are under Mughal suzerainty. So this was the big political structure with which Europeans see was already established in India. And to influence their trade, to influence their monopoly in trade, they have to either make friends that big political empire like Mughals, as we have read in history, the uh, I think that was a Hawkins, Captain Hawkins, which came to
Yes,
Jagir
Captain
ports
Obvious.
and so and so. They they were like to make friends with Mughal. This was the
Hmm.
reason because Mughals had the political administration all over the country. So the positive of colonization was the that India as a whole, first time after Mughal, even after the breakdown of Mughal, India first time saw a unification of administration from its length and breadth. It was a positive outcome, which is
Yes, it was
reflected
one.
even today. Which is reflected even today. That India, whether it is Kashmir, whether it is Tamil Nadu, Chennai, either Assam or Rajasthan, the central government administration is same throughout the country. This is the positive outcome. What was the negative of this? Negative was too much centralization. This was the negative, which we see in modern scenario also. The central government cannot expect, here central government should not expect that what is their policy in Rajasthan will give them same fruits in Assam also. What is their philosophy in Tamil Nadu? It will give same fruits in Kashmir also. So this is a negative which decolonization gave us, yeah, which colonization gave us that it make the center too strong even today.
Yes,
This is my
because
second
of
point.
them we have all the corruptions and that because of centralization
Huh.
growth being too.
Yes. So due to that centralization, na, corruption is the brainchild of centralization itself. Like if I want to
Yes,
start
too
a
much
factory,
power and too less people.
yes, if I want to start a factory, if I want to start an industry, there is a person of central government which should give me a license, which should give me a clearance to start my factory or industry, and he will not give clearance without so much haripatti or so under the table so and so.
Yes, yes.
Even today,
One
Too much
one
power and too less supervision.
yes.
one other like positive thing that Britishers did was they made it for their own purpose, but it is still helping India is the railways.
Hmm.
Yes, yes, yes.
Like
Infrastructure was one of the bigger thing that Britishers did for us.
I was coming to that.
wherever,
It was the third dimension of economy.
Uh,
yeah,
we
please
took,
continue. You have done quite well research.
okay, let's make it interactive. Let's go back and forth. It is not a. You continue.
No, no, no.
If we
So
have
Because
a point, we will.
I am bit curious, like how Vibha is putting a point. So yeah, please go ahead
like
with
the
that.
society political structure we have seen, the third point is economy. In terms of economy, the positive outcome was at Parag's side, the railways. We will not go to the intention that was their intention. They wanted to start the railways, to transfer the raw material up to the ports and from ports to the ship to Europe, and that is a separate point of view. But it led to the expansion of infrastructure in India in terms of
Yes,
railway, in terms of postal service, in terms of
yes.
telecommunication,
Highways.
in terms of ships building and manufacturing, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of the so-called unorganized sector in today's economy also.
How can I explain the last point?
Unorganized sector. Uh, when we
The
say
transit
when
hubs.
we
Yes, yes.
when we say industrialization in Europe and when
Mm.
we say industrialization in India, it was very
Mm.
different. How
Mm.
industrialization
Uh,
in Europe was in terms of factory.
mm.
Like there is a central there is a central, you can say there is a town. There is a town and there is an industrial area where there are factory, and the first or the broad level factories was the textile industry in Europe. I'm talking about Europe. So the textile industry, they exported the raw material from India, and in Europe there was factory, n number of factories which converted these cotton, these raw material into clothes or textiles, so and so. So this was happening in a, in a in a centralized place, in a centralized manner, in factories. While at the same time in India, during Britishers, factories did not flourish so much during Britishers time.
Hmm.
You can give me one or two example, like you can say Sir Tata Steel, Jamshedpur, and so and so. They developed they developed by itself. How itself? That's a different topic. They developed by itself. They were not developed by Europeans. They were not developed by colonies. So during when we were colonized, our industrialization was simply that we have to give them raw material, we have to do the tea plantation. So that were in a unorganized manner. That were in a, like in a family. The family don't have to go to factory to manufacture so and so things. So it was like at a village level. So that's why I'm saying the so-called unorganized sector of today, because the central government was so strong. If they have wanted, they have they have summarized all these things, and they have made the factory
Hmm.
structure as it was in Europe. But they didn't do it because they didn't want to do it. They simply wanted that if there is n number of villages in that area, for example, per se in Bengal. So Bengal, they did not expand the factories in Bengal. What they did, like there are 100 and 200 and 500 villages. These villages were, administered by Zamidar. They were simply interested in collecting tax. They were simply interested in growing indigo and their farmers' field, and collect the raw material and transferred via rail. Simple.
You mean to say that they are producing the raw materials in India, not establishing the industry, like majorly.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. So this lead to the growth of unorganized sector in India.
Got
So
it.
in terms of economy, we have discussed also. My last point would be IR in terms of international relation. Uh, during 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 Mughals period, our
Hmm.
international relation was comprised of uh, two
Irani,
parameters.
Turani, and that was
Yes.
mainly.
So two main parameters was there during Mughals period. First one was the protection of Indian western border, northwestern border.
Yes.
So our international relation was influenced by that we have to, secure this triangle. What was the triangle? Uh, 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 it was Kabul, it was
Hmm.
Ghazni, and it
Hmm.
was the third one was there also. So these three were the main concern of Mughal Empire to protect the northwestern border. So our international relation was in that manner. In south, like Gujarat, also Gujarat, Mumbai, so and so, our international one second.
But
In South India, West India, our international relation was influenced by like how we can get the import from Arab nation, from China, and we can
hmm.
penetrate this that material into complete of India. So our international
Hmm.
relation was divided in two parameters. During colonization, the international relation grow in
Hmm.
terms of transport hub. Transport hub per se, like capturing the raw material from India, from China, and so on, and transfer to Europe, and and transfer the finished good from Europe to India and China and so-called South Asia, West Asia countries. After decolonization, the international relation grow in the sense of uh, brotherhood and influence among neighborhood countries and among the colonized countries. Like after we get independence, our international relation was influenced first by that we are neighbors, India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, even Pakistan per se, that we are neighbor. Our leader was very much in on the same page for this, that we are neighbor, and in our neighborhood there should be peace and we should be free from any external disturbance. So our international policy grew in that manner, which is a positive impact of decolonization. And even today, our international relation is influenced by this factor only, that our neighborhood is with peace and is free from any external interference. Second factor of international relation is was after decolonization was that key all that remaining colonies we should influence them, or we should push the colonial master to decolonize them also. In that way, India and African nations relationship grew, which reflected today also. We recently opened a, I think, IIT campus in some Africa nation. So these were the positive outcome of uh, decolonization and negative outcome decolonization from my point of
Yes.
view. और
Okay.
मैंने ज्यादा पका दिया
तो
है, मेरे को पता है, पर
नहीं,
ठीक है।
ठीक है। वो हिस्ट्री है, इट इज सपोज टू बी दैट वे। अब उसके बाद सोशल एस्पेक्ट भी है इसमें। कॉलोनी ये हमारे को लड़ाई करवा के चले गए कि मतलब इनको जहाँ भी एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन अपना सेटअप करना था। अब बंगाल में ये हुआ था जब पहली म्यूटनी हुई थी 47 में। So these colonies were stunned by the unity of both Hindu and Muslims. So they gave separate electorate to them, and that led to divide between them. So mostly, I think in the present context, they surely did good for their colonies in terms of infrastructure, but they did, but it outweighs the negative impacts that they created outweighs their positives. For example, they what you call racial discrimination. They consider themselves superior. They consider that it is the white man burden to clear everyone's shit, and they think they are a superior being, that other people are not that great. So that created a psychological trauma that is not still being seen in many countries. That Europeans look down on the people from third world countries, and the students there are not being treated equally, and there are being many cases because of such psychology that was created due to colonies that was there. And there is loss of culture because of the colonies. Many colonies were not able to express their culture, and that is leading to that is leading to loss of
Damage
many
of
culture
their
and
own culture. Yes.
languages and literature and psychologies, philosophies. For example, India has a vast resources of philosophies earlier, and many of them they copied, and many were lost because Indian literature was seen inferior compared to them. I think Parag disconnected because of something. So that was that. Uh, and there is
That culture,
climate repercussions.
you can add
What?
one point in that cultural also. In
Yes.
today's scenario, the situation of tribal population during
Mm,
colonies, they were the one which were,
mm,
which one? which was pushed away from their own houses, on land, which was forest,
mm,
and they are suffered even today in the same manner. This is the this is the negative which we learned as Indian
yes.
from our colonial master.
Yes. And there was the other religions were looked down upon. They, because of the ideas were lost in them. Many of the people lost their belief in their religion, which led to disturbance in the administration and belief that they can grow, which might have led many countries many years backward. And there is one of the major, because of this colonies, there were wars and there was a lot of manufacturing, which led to what we call the environmental degradation, because of which there were many severe impact. Our climate and the temperature of our country rose to many degrees because of them. There is the rising level of what you call that, sea ocean water. And because of that, small islands like Falkland Island or New Falkland Island, they are still under the what you call the under the threat of land degradation because of rising sea levels. And there is lack of what you call administration because of colonies controlling over the administration. They have to they have to fall to their neighbors, and because of which they are still the colonies of their neighbors. So I think they did great. They provided some advantages, but the negatives that way outweigh what you call the what are the positives. And when it comes to should they be held responsible, I think we cannot uh, held them responsible for all the what you call the resources ki this much resources you took, give it back to our country. But we can hold them responsible that they should apologize. They should globally accept ki uh, every community is equal, and we do not look upon to them. That will lead to a change that people living there will not have a superiority complex, and students are there will have a fair chance of survival, and there will be less brain drain because of this कि बाहर की कंट्रीज में बेटर लाइफस्टाइल है. किसी भी कंट्रीज का ब्रेन ड्रेन हो रहा है, वहाँ के बच्चे उधर जा रहे हैं और उसकी वजह से यहाँ पे डेवलपमेंट और 10 साल आगे जा पा रही है. सो यू से कि दे शुड अपोलोजाइज, which will lead to change in the psychology, and will make the world a little better for our future generations to get. So that was my summary of everything related to decolonization. So let's. So you both have anything to add to that, or any question you might see in relevant?
Like I am like interested in knowing or whatever I think, like कि जो caste system है. So
Yes.
before the Britishers came, for their
Mm,
east, they summed up many like smaller tribes into OBCs, other
mm,
backward classes.
mm,
But before that, I think they were independent to survive on in with their own like traditions or whatever, and
mm,
no king or no government, जो
mm,
भी उनका पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम था जहाँ भी वो ट्राइब्स एग्जिस्ट करते थे, तो दे वर
mm,
नॉट हैविंग एनी इश्यूज विद देम कि उनके लिए कोई पर्टिकुलर रूल है कुछ भी है. फॉर एग्जांपल विवाह सेठ के जो भी लाइक ट्राइबल लोग थे, ठीक है, तो उनको उन्हीं के लैंड से अलग करने का कोई ऐसा सिस्टम नहीं था बिफोर ब्रिटिशर्स. अगर वो ट्राइब्स एग्जिस्ट करते थे तो इंडिपेंडेंटली दे लाइक पे टैक्सेस और वॉट एवर सिस्टम्स वर देयर, दे वर डूइंग दैट. बट ब्रिटिशर्स कलेक्टिवली लाइक डॉक्यूमेंटेड देम. और आज भी हम वही कास्ट सिस्टम फॉलो कर रहे हैं. मतलब अगर एक तरीके से देखें कि भाई उन्होंने डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कर दिया कि दीज पर्टिकुलर आर हिंदूज, मुस्लिम्स, दीज आर ओबीसीज, दीज आर
okay.
सिख्स. So
Mm,
this particular division of the society in documentation,
mm,
before that it was based on work, it was based on their like
mm,
level in society. They were peasants, they were laborers, or this kind of structure was there, but there was no such hatred
mm,
in different castes. Like
mm,
the society was growing as a whole, देयर वर सम केसेस के जहाँ पे भाई पार्शियलिटी होती थी, बट इट वाज नॉट दैट मच रिफ्लेक्टिंग. बट आफ्टर ब्रिटिशर्स द डिवाइड एंड रूल हैपेंड at very micro level.
But okay, that's an
This is what
interesting,
I
very
think.
interesting
Like this is
point.
what I think.
That's very interesting point. And you are saying that because of the complexities in it, they made the categorization of categorization so complex that it was hard for anyone to change it, and which led to stagnation, or we accepted द कॉन्सेप्ट कि अगर वो उसमें मेंशन्ड है उसको इजीली चेंज नहीं करा जा सकता, तो अभी जस्ट गो थ्रू इट एंड वी विल चेंज इट इन द फ्यूचर, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ सच कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी की अब वो चेंज ही नहीं कर पा रहे हैं उसको, कि हर बार
अभी भी हम
पॉलिटिकल
फॉर्म में
प्रेशर की
कास्ट
वजह
भरते
से।
ही है ना.
हाँ अभी
रिजर्वेशन है, सारी चीजें हैं. अगर वो चीज नहीं हुई होती तो रिजर्वेशन इंट्रोड्यूस ही नहीं हुआ होता. मतलब इट वाज इंट्रोड्यूस फॉर द बेटर गुड ऑफ द
हाँ
सोसाइटी,
मतलब थोड़े टाइम के
बट
बाद वो डिसॉल्व हो जाता, मगर
डिसॉल्व हो
अगर
जाता.
देखें, हाँ वो बात सही है, मगर देखा जाए तो एक ह्यूमन नेचर होती है कि अगर कोई भी यूनिक है ग्रुप में तो उसको डिस्क्रिमिनेट करा जाता है, वो बेसिक साइकोलॉजी है ह्यूमैनिटी की, कि अगर मान लो तुम चार नॉर्मल लोग हो, एक बंदा है जिसको एक स्पेशल केस है, एक मूवी है जैक, उसमें ऐसा होता है कि वो चार गुना बढ़ता है, उसका सब कुछ नॉर्मल होता है, बस उसको वो 10 साल का 40 साल का लगता है, तो पीपल डिस्क्रिमिनेट अमंग देम, तो नॉर्मल ह्यूमन साइकोलॉजी है कि अगर कोई भी डिफरेंट होता है तो उसको डिस्क्रिमिनेट करा जाता है। तो सोसाइटी में भी ऐसे हुआ था, अगर मैं इवोल्यूशन ऑफ कास्ट की बात करूँ, अगर यहाँ पे थोड़ा ऑफ टॉपिक जाके, तो कास्ट भी ऐसे ओरिजिनेट हुआ था कि जो मिडिल ईस्टर्न में वो रहते थे ट्राइब्स, अब अगर तुम फिजिकल फीचर्स देखोगे लोगों के, तो इट इज़ बेस्ड ऑन कि वो किस जोग्राफिकल लोकेशन में रहते हैं, अगर कहीं पे लाइट कम रहती है तो वहाँ के लोगों में मेनेलिन कम प्रोड्यूस होता है और वो गोरे रहते हैं कंपैरेटिवली, अगर कहीं पे अगर वो इक्वेटर के पास है तो वो काले होंगे क्योंकि वहाँ पर डायरेक्ट लाइट आती है। दैट इज द इवोल्यूशन दैट हैज बीन फॉर मैनी ईयर्स। मगर अब सब मिक्स हो चुका है, अब वो वहाँ के लोग जब इधर आएंगे तो देर इज अ व्हाट इज कॉल्ड फिजिकल डिफरेंस, तो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट उन्होंने डिफ्रेंशिएट करना शुरू करा एक दूसरे को। अब डोमिनेंस दिखाने के लिए उन्होंने एक दूसरे को नीचे देखना शुरू करा, अब जो भी पावर में उसने दूसरे को छोटा बताना शुरू कर दिया। तो डिफरेंसेस हमेशा से रहे हैं और आगे जाके बढ़ते भी चले गए, और व्हाट यू कॉल कि ब्रिटिशर्स ने इसको हाईलाइट करा। आई एग्री कि उनकी वजह से हुआ है, मगर पीछे भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी आ चुकी थी ऑलरेडी। तो इसका सोल्यूशन ये नहीं है कि अब सब चीज़ों को गायब कर दें, क्योंकि एकदम से गायब कर देंगे तो पीछे वाला जो सिस्टम है वो वापस प्लेस में आ जाएगा और इंडिया की लग जाएगी ह्यूमैनिटी ह्यूमैनिटी लेवल पे।
नहीं, वो मैं गायब करने की बात नहीं कर रहा. वी वर
नहीं,
टॉकिंग
मैं कह रहा हूँ
अबाउट द
कि हाँ रहना,
कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस.
हमारे
ओके.
को नई फिलोसफर्स की ज़रूरत है जो पॉजिटिवली देखें।
करेक्ट. करेक्ट.
तो कंक्लूड करते हैं पॉलिटी कॉलोनाइजेशन का, कि व्हाट डू यू थिंक, कंक्लूजन मैंने अपना दिया था, व्हाट डू यू थिंक वी कंक्लूडेड फ्रॉम दिस कन्वर्सेशन, एंड व्हाट इज द डायरेक्शन द वर्ल्ड इज गोइंग रिलेटेड टू दिस।
So I will try to add on based on your conclusion कि they should apologize. तो मैं ऐसा सोचता हूँ कि India is way ahead right now to take apology from them. We have
ओके।
already we have already done so much on world level. Like in the past 10 years, I would say particularly कि जब
हम्म।
से मैंने मतलब देखना शुरू करा है, जब से मैंने समझना शुरू करा है इंडिया के जियो geological things, political things को, international relations को, in the last 10
हम्म।
years India has outbound so many things
हम्म।
with the
यस।
current government particularly.
यस।
Okay, we are way ahead of Britishers, like particularly England, London, and so many economies that
हम्म।
people are looking towards us
हम्म।
to establish their industries, to expand their businesses in our country, to grow, to mutually create so many like infrastructure, science and technology, be it education, be it development. COVID has given us so many international relational benefits as well. During that time, India helped a lot of countries. So I think that will be a very small thing. The only thing is that जो इलीट है करंट इंडिया का, which is not looking backwards and seeing के India also has a lot of things in their traditions, कि तुम
हम्म,
पहले जाते हो एक
हम्म,
पर्टिकुलर चीज की तरफ जो कि वेस्ट ने दी, देन तुम 10 साल 20 साल 30 सालों से यूज करते हो, यू फाइंड आउट कि इसमें ये कॉजेज है, ये कैंसर क्रिएट करता है, देन यू गो बैक टू कि भाई अभी अर्दन पॉट्स को यूज करेंगे। पहले वो चीज 5 रुपए की मिल रही थी, नाउ यू पे 300 फॉर दैट। This is
हम्म,
just a one instance in so many things, in particularly in lifestyle. Lifestyle, I
हम्म,
include education, I include
हम्म,
living habits, I include clothes, I include medicine, I include
हम्म,
the sleep cycle and everything. So I think the elite, because जो भी हमारी रूरल बैकग्राउंड से होता है, जो भी ऐसा पर्सन है जिसका इकोनॉमिक लेवल थोड़ा लो है, दे लुक फॉरवर्ड फॉर द elite कि वो क्या कर रहा है। तो
हम्म।
जो भी होता है गांव में 5 साल बाद होता है, जो कि यहाँ खत्म हो चुका होता है। तो दे शुड बेंड देयर थिंग्स टुवर्ड मोर इंडियन रूट्स
मतलब
एंड दैट
ग्लोबलाइजेशन
विल,
ढंग से होना चाहिए और इंडिया के कॉन्सेप्ट को
हाँ,
उठा के एक्चुअल में उनके साथ
करेक्ट,
एक्सपेरिमेंट वगैरह रिसर्च पेपर्स लिखे जाने चाहिए और उनको इम्प्लीमेंटेशन में लाना चाहिए सारे कॉन्सेप्ट को,
लाना चाहिए,
क्योंकि काफ़ी चीज़ें प्रैक्टिकल भी हैं और काफ़ी चीज़ें अच्छा रिजल्ट देती हैं, तो
अच्छा
दे मस्ट
रिजल्ट
बी
देती है।
कंसिडर्ड। और इंडिया का इंडिया काफ़ी चीज़ों में आगे रहा है पहले, और उन चीज़ों को एक्सप्लोर करना चाहिए। दैट इज़ अ ग्रेट प्लेस ऑफ रिसर्च फॉर न्यू रिसर्चर्स। दैट
करेक्ट,
इज़ व्हाट यू आर
फॉर
सेइंग।
एग्जांपल, फॉर एग्जांपल लाइक जापान और चाइना है, दे फॉलो देयर ओन रूट्स, कि वो जब जो चीजें उनकी बहुत पुराने से चली आ रही हैं, दे हैड अडेप्टेड देमसेल्फ एज पर ग्लोबलाइजेशन, बट दे आर नॉट रेडी टू लीव देयर लाइक लाइक जो भी उनकी ट्रेडिशनल चीजें थी,
अरे
एंड
वो
दे
तो
आर,
बिकॉज ऑफ देयर हिस्ट्री की जापान
या
ने तो आइसोलेट कर लिया था
ऑब्वियसली,
खुद को। हाँ,
ऑब्वियसली लाइक देयर इज नो डाउट, आई एम नॉट डिनाइंग हिस्ट्री, बट आई एम सेइंग कि हम वो चीज बीच में एक बहुत लंबा गैप आ गया 200 300 साल का, बट
हाँ, वी मस्ट
अगर
बी
हम
प्राउड,
वो
वी मस्ट
चीज
बी
को,
प्राउड ऑफ आवर ट्रेडिशंस।
हाँ, कि अगर देखते हैं तो दैट विल बी वन थिंग। या
यस,
ओवर टू विवाह।
दैट आई मेंशन्ड कि हमने अपना कल्चर और वो खो दिया है, कि वो
हम्म,
क्योंकि ब्रिटिशर्स हमारे सारे आइडियाज को नीचे देखते थे, तो हमारे ज़्यादातर व्यूज़ को पब्लिश नहीं होने दिया। और बल्कि तुम दो स्कूल ऑफ थॉट हैं, एक तो इंडियन ओशियन और एक यूरोप के पास वाले ओशियन का। और उसमें यह है कि इंडियन ओशियन सेंटर हुआ करता था एक टाइम पे, जहाँ पे अफ्रीका वगैरह सब कनेक्ट होते थे और जापान तक हम लोग ट्रैवल करते थे। मगर हमारी, अगर तुम्हें पता हो तो हमारे को हिस्ट्री लिखने का भी हक नहीं है। हमारे जो रोमिला थापड़ और वो सब हैं, वो हर रोज जाके उधर उनसे लड़ते हैं यूरोपियन से कि हमारे को हिस्ट्री हमारी तरह से लिखने दो। हमारी हिस्ट्री भी अंग्रेजों ने लिखी भी है।
करेक्ट। और
हम्म।
उसमें भी जो मतलब एंटी ब्रिटिश लिटरेचर है, वो ज्यादातर मतलब मॉडर्न टाइम तक आते आते बहुत लिमिटेड एक्सेसेस में।
Yes, yes, we need to look into our traditions and we need to revive most of them because it was very practical and very thought out कि वो कई जनरेशन के बाद डेवलप हुए थे। हमारी फिलोसफीज जो अगर तुम बुद्धिज्म रिलीजन को देखो तो उस टाइम पे 66 ऐसे रिलीजन थे। उस टाइम पे जब महाजनपद चल रहे थे 66 ऐसे रिलीजन थे जिनमें से बुद्धिज्म और वो थे। तो उस टाइम पे सोचो कि फिलोसफी का कितना बड़ा हब था इंडिया, कि वहाँ पे वो किस लेवल के ह्यूमैनिटेरियन लेवल पे किस तरह के डिस्कशंस होते होंगे। तो मान रहे हो कि आदमी को बिल्कुल कोर में समझ रहे हैं कि अभी तुम अध्यात्म पे जाओ। अभी हमने डिस्कस करते हुए पीछे डिस्कवर करा कि अध्यात्म का मतलब ये है कि यू डू नॉट रिस्पॉन्ड टू, यू डू नॉट रिस्पॉन्ड टू एक्सटर्नल, मतलब तुम इंस्टिंक्ट पे काम नहीं करते। जो चीज प्रैक्टिकल होती है उसको तुम एक्चुअल में रिस्पॉन्ड करते हो, वो अध्यात्म है। अब वो कॉन्सेप्ट खो चुके हैं क्योंकि हम मॉडर्न तरीके से उसे देखते हैं। अब कॉलोनीज ने ये कहा कि ये तो जादू भाव वाली बातें कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि रेनेसांस ने उनको लिमिट कर दिया था। हर किसी को नीचे देख रहे थे वो। तो व्हाट यू कॉल कि हमें उसके पीछे की फिलोसफीज देखनी चाहिए, वो काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग है और वो प्रैक्टिकल है अगर उन्हें सही नज़रिए से देखा जाए।
करेक्ट।
ओके, सो रोहित, व्हाट डू यू कंक्लूड फ्रॉम ऑल दिस कॉन्वर्सेशन? आपका ही बचा है? आपका भी हो गया? चलो, तो दिस वाज आवर एपिसोड on common sense and overthinking, and we started this broadcast because we wanted to not just think, we needed to understand what's been happening in the society. And if you find it interesting, we would like to share more of these in the future, and we will explore the topics like Indian budget and why is it relevant to us, or we might explore कि कि रेशनलिज्म कहाँ से डिस्कवर हुआ था, या ह्यूमैनिटी कैसे डेवलप हुई विद टाइम, या पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन और बिजनेस एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में क्या डिफरेंस होता है। मतलब नॉर्मल कॉन्सेप्ट जो हम पढ़ते हैं, या इकोनॉमी समझ लेते हैं किसी दिन बैठ के, कि नॉर्मल कॉन्सेप्ट जो हम पढ़ते हैं मगर हमें समझ नहीं आते, या फिर वर्ल्ड में क्या एक्चुअल में प्रॉब्लम चल रही हैं विच में बी रेलेवेंट फॉर समवन हु इज एक्सप्लोरिंग टू मेक समथिंग आउट ऑफ हिज लाइफ और अंडरस्टैंड कि क्या चल रहा है। So if you find it interesting, do subscribe, and we will come up with more such videos. Thank you. Recording recording बंद करेगा। ठीक था।